everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video, and today we are continuing my top 10 countdown to my favorite Batman stories and graphic novels of all time. Now remember, these are not the ones I think are the best, just the ones that I like the most, my favorite. Now, some of these could be the best, so you might want to keep an eye out. But with that said, we're doing number 3. We're already at number 3 on the countdown. A lot of you have been asking what my number 1 is. It's right there, because I'm all doing these in one day. The last 4, I'm all doing them in one day. The number 1's right there. You just can't see it right now. A lot of you are like, well, you already did some heavy hitters. They're already out there. What could be number 1? Well, you'll have to wait and see. Coming in at number 3, for my own personal favorite Batman stories of all time, would be Batman Year One. Now, Batman Year One. I've always been a Batman fan since I was a wee little boy. There's a picture in my dad's office, which I really should bring in sometime to show you guys, of me with my Batman costume on, the cape out, looking like the Dark Knight himself. And I must have been like 4 years old. I have been a Batman fan since I came out of the womb. I'm sure my first words were, "I'm Batman!" But I've always been a Batman fan, without a doubt. I love the cartoon, I loved the movies when I was a kid, and when I was a kid I tried to get into comics. And I bought comic issues here and there. However, as a child, for Batman and some of his darker themes and more in-depth comics, I didn't necessarily understand it. Of course, I was a little kid. It wasn't until I got older in my teens that I started to get back heavily into comics. And of course, I started none other than Batman Year One, which is probably the best entry place for new Batman fans to go into Batman. It's one of the first comics that I've read with my girlfriend, because every once in a while she'll read a Batman comic with me, as long as I read it for her, because, well, it keeps her interested. But right now we're reading through Hush. But Batman Year One was one of the first stories that I've read to her, and was one of the first stories that I've completed for Batman. It's not the first Batman story I've read, but probably the first one that I've fully completed when I started getting back into comics. And Year One is beautiful. Frank Miller is a great writer. He does a good job with darker tones. He can also do a good job with other stuff. Other than his Batman stuff, I haven't read anything else that he's done. I haven't read he's done Sin City, I believe. I haven't read that. I've only read his Batman stuff, but Year One, he did a fantastic job at re-establishing Batman with his darker origins. Now, obviously, The Dark Knight Returns came out first, and that was kind of like, hey, everyone, Batman's dark, because Dennis O'Neil, during the 70s, was the person that brought Batman back to his dark roots. But because of the campy show, it was hard for the general public, outside of comic book fans, to really accept Batman for his new dark origin, or his true dark origin. It wasn't until Frank Miller came around with stories such as The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One do people really start to say, okay, yeah, Batman, we can take him seriously again. And this really re-established Batman as a comic book character, or at least re-established him back to his origins. The great thing about Batman and his origin story is that it is a very important part to Batman and his character. But at the same time, it's a very simple, very easy story to understand. His parents die, they were killed by a mugger. He makes a promise to rid the world of the evil that took his parents from him. Trained, became smart, became a fighter, became a detective, returned to Gotham, and became Batman. It's that simple. Obviously things change here and there, but it's that simple. And with the reboot of with the Crisis of Infinite Earth, changing everyone's origin story, Batman's was more or less updated rather than changed. There's very few things that were actually changed with Batman's origin for this. Very few. It's more or less updated. But this is probably my favorite origin story without a doubt. Without a doubt. I liked how it was from the perspective of Commissioner Gordon and Bruce Wayne both. And I feel as though Commissioner Gordon almost stole the show. I feel as though they're equal, but Commissioner Gordon did a very good job. And you find that these characters, particularly Gordon and Bruce Wayne Batman, they're very human characters. They're very flawed characters. Despite the great things that they do, they make human mistakes. You get to see the origin of Batman. I mean, what else can I say? The not as good, the art is gritty, and I like that. I like how the art kind of sets tone. It's not as gritty as some of the other Batman art that has been out there, but it really does set the tone for year one. It's a fairly quick read, too. It's only 4 chapters. As you can see there, it's a very thin book, but it's straight to the point. I love the Superman Man of Steel series. It's probably my favorite Superman stories of the Man of Steel. But it's very long and dragged out. Even with the George Perez Wonder Woman stuff, I love that, but they a lot of time was spent on reestablishing Wonder Woman, as it should have, because Wonder Woman was, out of the Trinity, the character that was probably changed the most. Batman's is very straight and very to the point, which is what I like. And it's very easy for someone to get into Batman because it's very short, straight, and to the point. The only complaint I could ever have with this book at all, if any, is I would have liked something a little bit bigger at the ending. I felt the ending was kind of just, here we go, Batman, new age of Batman, let's go for it. That's it. I mean, I would have liked to see him go up against some big crime family, or I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like a boss battle, a final fight. I mean, he had that big thing in the warehouse, was it? Or not a warehouse, but the apartment buildings that were bombed. That was really cool, but I would have liked to see it end on some kind of fight. But other than that, I mean, this is a great story. The dialogue is great. The writing is great. It's definitely one of the best Batman stories out there. And it definitely makes a place on my list. Very few complaints with it. Very few at all. Actually, I don't like how Catwoman was portrayed as a prostitute. Obviously, because of Zero Hour, Crisis in Time, that has been changed and totally removed from continuity. But I don't know what caused Frank Miller to make her a prostitute. Maybe it's because he wants to touch upon the more gritty, darker tones with the characters, but I did not care for that. But it got fixed, so it really doesn't matter. I also think Batman should have been a little bit younger going into Gotham, but other than that, I mean, this is a great story. Like I said, the characters are done very nicely. I can praise this all day, but any Batman fan already read this. They already know the deal. I don't need to spend any more of your time telling you how great this story is. So, with that said, until next week, this is number 3 on the countdown. You can join at any time. I know it's a little obscure of a topic. Batman, not everyone reads them. Everyone should, but not everyone does. But if you want to join, go right ahead. So with that said, I'm going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.